Welcome to Looper Talk. Tim Palmer here. Another episode. This is kind of a spur of the moment deal. We just had our CEO of the PGA of America resign. Derek Sprague. Hope I said that right. Probably butchered it. He is stepping down from CEO. And his excuse, or I don't want to say it's an excuse, he said that it's because he wants to be more present with his family, and he wants to spend time with his mother and mother-in-law because I believe they do not have good health. So that was his reasons for stepping down as CEO. We are going to talk about everything, kind of bring things up, and I have some questions, and I would like for you all to, maybe someone can give me an answer on these, because his resignation is very intriguing to me because it doesn't make a lot of sense, but I don't want to assume, I don't want to speculate too much. I would rather just ask the questions that are necessary, and hopefully we can get some answers, because this is within the PGA of America. It is the highest paying job you can possibly get. So to resign from that is a bit interesting. I'm going to go over who Derek Sprague is. He's came from the Northeast section. I think he started in 1989 at the Malone Club in New York. And then in 93, he was elected a member. 10 years later, he was the president of that section. And then he kind of progressed from there. 2012, he was the vice president of the PGA. And then once 2014 hit, he got elected as the 39th president for those 2 years. So Derek has progressed like most of these professionals that get into the political force within the PGA of America. They start at a section, then they work their way within that section to become on the board of directors, president, whatever they can within that section. And then after that, they can progress from there into the corporate office of the PGA of America, vice president, president. And again, let's reiterate, if I'm the president of the PGA of America, I'm not at some headquarters like the White House, and I'm sitting there in my throne, and I'm just telling all these trust fund kids, hey, you're going to do this, you're going to do that, you're going to fold me a shirt, whatever. That's not how it goes. So what they do is they help the organization out. They deal with bunch of stuff that requires the membership dues, programs that help with like the Get Golf Ready stuff. Like the president and the vice president, they are more or less delegators of how to make the PGA of America progress, and so they're big on that. But while they're doing that, they also work at the same club that they're currently at. So they have two sources of income, and I believe most of your presidents, they usually range around 100 to 120,000 extra on top of their salary from their club. So they get paid pretty good. And it's kind of ran like the government in a way. We have meetings, we have elections, we have maybe like panels where if something goes wrong, or we have open discussions, open forums. They give us surveys that we can fill out. We then speak to them directly. So it's very similar to most organizations. Nothing really beyond what you would see in a normal day-to-day life as a president of an organization. So, and after he became president of the PGA and that 2-year span was done, he then moved on down to Florida, and he was at TPC Sawgrass, and he worked from there from 2018 to 2024, and he was the general manager of that place. And I tell you what, you talk about, that's one of the PGA Tour main headquarters. That's where the Players Championship is. I mean, that clubhouse alone is massive. So there's a lot of money flowing in and out of that facility. And so his salary increase was probably from somewhere between 150 to 180, and then he got up to around 300 to 400,000 a year. So I would say his last 8-9 years of income that was coming in, he was averaging at least 6 figures a year. So he's always done fairly well for himself. He's always had jobs in this organization where he lives comfortably. So going from that, he then gets, and it's 2025. Seth Woe steps down from being the CEO, and they allow Derek to have the job. Or I don't want to say allow. I think there was a process there. Not, hey Derek, have the job, bud. No, I think there was a little bit of delegation, whatever, right? Politics, I would assume. And so he is now the CEO of the PGA of America. Badass. Good on you, man. It is the highest paying job in the entire organization. Seth Woe, his salary report states that he was making 3.8 million for the year of 2024. Definitely a seven-figure salary. And it's probably a couple million at the least. It's not just a million. I think these boys make quite a bit of money. Hence why I've talked about salary caps and how that could really help create a revenue pool to pay for these professionals, give them an adequate salary. So, anyways, now he's in this position where he's the CEO. He's making really good money. This is the best job he's ever had. He's 10 times his income. It's not even close, would be my guess. And there was 3 interviews that he did throughout the time that he was the CEO. One of the interviews was at NBC. It was the month of April. He did another interview with the media press. It was like a media press conference, and I think that was the following month. And then his last little interview was in September, and it was a magazine called D Magazine. What I did is I wanted to research if he had spoken about his family and about issues with his family within these interviews. I couldn't find anything about his family, which led me to think, okay, well, maybe this was an abrupt issue. He's not a young guy. He started in PJ in '89, so his mother and mother-in-law, I would assume, have to be over the age of 70, maybe even closer to 80. And so it just this is where it bears the question to me. This is where I started to think and wonder why. So his excuse for stepping down was to take care of his family and be more present. But 1, he's not a health professional. 2, he's making 10 times the income that he was making previous year. Okay. Why would you sacrifice that income, which could provide the most credible health care because you have the financial availability to do that? You could actually help your family out for multiple years just off of a 1-year salary. Yet he wants to just all of a sudden step down abruptly. That raised a lot of suspicions to me because as a parent, especially my parent, my dad, he even told me, like, if I get into a position where I can make generational wealth and I can benefit not only my kids but my grandkids, why would I why would I go backwards and take that away from our family and think and make an excuse I have to take care of my 80-year-old mother? I just don't understand that because if anything, that 80-year-old mother is ready to go, at least from my mind. You don't need to sacrifice a lot for her. I understand that there's emotional connection there. I don't want to tell people what their intentions are. Or I don't know him. But from an outside in looking at that, it just raises a lot of questions. Like why would you not use that money to help her? Or why would you not think ahead and think about your bloodline and think about the longevity of your family, right? Because that to me, I would think that mother would be more concerned about her kids and her grandkids than she is herself, at least coming from a parent standpoint. So the excuse he made to step down as CEO is kind of weird to me. It raises a lot of questions. And so what I will assume is I think he saw the writing on the wall. He saw the state financially that the PGA of America is in, meaning he saw the losses, the viewership, and all that. So I'm going to throw you guys some stats, and then I'll kind of wrap everything up. But it's very intriguing to me that we are not really considering a different reason why he stepped down as a CEO. So, as we talked about before, the PGA of America, there's two major events that supply most of the revenue. It's the PGA Championship and it's the Ryder Cup. Now, the Ryder Cup happens every other year, the PGA Championship happens every year. So every 2 years, they have a 3 tournament cycle. Now, there's other tournaments. I don't want to, the KMT, the Senior Open, I get it, or the Senior PGA, I get it. I don't want to put those aside, but those alone don't make even a third of the revenue of these tournaments. So sure, they help out, but their effect to the organization is way less compared to these 2 tournaments. What I've noticed is I did some research on kind of the numbers of what the PGA championship and what's been going on. So I did a 10-year timeline and I averaged out all the viewers, or I saw the viewership of what it was progressed in 10 years. So in 2015, the PGA championship viewership was around 6.7 million views for the tournament. And in 2025, it was down to 4.76 million views. So there is essentially already a third of the viewership is down. And the ticket prices went from $95 to almost $240. Now, I know the dollar has risen. It's only been 10 years, so it's not a drastic increase, but it still raises a question. The demand is not there, but yet they still raise the price. So that to me is very interesting how they were able to pull that off and still even manage to have how many viewers? 4.7 million viewers this year. That's impressive at that rate. And let's go ahead and fix this argument. So the PGA of America makes 55% or 45% on revenue on broadcasting rights, and then they make another 22% on ticket sales. So that's almost a third, or excuse me, 3/4 of their revenue comes from either broadcasting or ticket sales on these major events. What I think he saw that the PGA of America, not only have they lost money 4 out of the last 5 years, and that's according to a ProPublica source on the internet, what you're also seeing is the viewership is going down. And that PGA of America, they don't make money from you watching on the internet. They don't make money from you sitting on your phone. CBS gave the PGA of America money so they could have these broadcasting rights on this table. Now, the deal is not disclosed. The PGA Tour deal was disclosed at $6.8 billion, but the CBS and the PGA of America deal was not disclosed, and that's always been fishy to me. And so, as we go forward, you cannot, as a CEO, you have to understand that I need people to subscribe. I need people to watch on TV. That CBS channel, that is huge. And I have to get people to buy tickets. That's my main source of revenue. Okay. And if my viewership is going down and my attendance is staying static, right? Because and that's another stat I forgot to leave out. The PGA Championships attendees have not actually grown in the last 10 years. They stay between 180 to 220,000 roughly. Within a 10-year cycle, they've always been within those two numbers. So there's no sign of growth there. It's very static. It's staying the same kind of situation. Now, what's interesting is they've raised the price. I would say 40% almost, 30%, and more like 30%. And so as they raise the price that much, 30% within 10 years, and we still have the same amount of attendees, I don't know how they pulled that off, but that's pretty intriguing. But the fact that the viewership is down, right? Because that's where most of the revenue is the broadcasting. To me, what I'm going to assume is there was some underlying stuff going on, and I think Derek knew about this. And that's why there was nothing mentioned about his family beforehand in these interviews. That's why he created that excuse, in my opinion. Again, I don't want to speculate too much. I'm sure that that's probably a valid reason, but if you think of it from a logical standpoint and the amount of money he's going to make and everything that would fit in with what he needs to be done, why wouldn't you take a high paying job so you could provide that adequate health care for your family? That just doesn't make any sense to me. And so I think the writing on the wall that we need to understand is that something really pushed him out of that position. And I don't really think it was his family. I think there was some logical thing going down. There was something financial that he didn't really want to be a part of. There was a lot of maybe some foreshadowing there that he saw that I don't really think if the public would know, um, that it would destroy the reputation of the PGA of America. God bless the guy. I don't know him. I'm hoping that it's not this way. I'm hope that he is just stepping down because of his family. But when you look at the statistics and you put the numbers down and you start to do the math, there's a lot of things within that organization that don't add up at all, and it's very daunting that they have continued to get away with this stuff, and yet we haven't had really a valid explanation as to why. Like, why is the PGA of America showed net losses 4 out of the 5 years? And I understand it's a nonprofit, it's a 501(c)(6), so therefore, there could be I think what that means is and again, we talked about this in a previous podcast. It means all their assets are tied into the organization. So if an asset depreciates, it reflects on the fiscal statement. And so they have properties, they have that PGA Frisco, blah, 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 blah. So it's okay for some of these nonprofits to show a loss. But when you start seeing a loss 80% of the time, that becomes a problem. And I think there's some writing on the wall here that at PGA of America professionals, we need to see this. I think there's a bigger picture here that that we're really kind of avoiding. And I think the Golf Digest, these media outlets, they're not going to tell you the truth on what that is because they need to make sure that their product has a perception of growth and it looks like it's doing good. That way people still give them their money. Right, because the minute they show the truth about things, people will end up either leaving it or avoiding it, right? So they're doing everything they can to mold that image and make sure that no one finds out the truth, in my opinion. And so, as a PGA professional, that makes me a little worried that we're going to have to somehow do something fast and hopefully we can do it before it actually gets worse. For the viewership of the PGA Championship to be down 2 million views in 10 years. And if there's people going to be like, oh, well, the 2018 one, they had 8.5 million. It's like, well, that's because Tiger Woods was there. And then I think there was another one. What was the one that Phil won? I think it was 5.5 million. There is some tournaments within the PGA Championship the last 10 years where they've had some spikes, but the average overall, it's a slow decline. Um, And so I think this is, to me, a warning for you PGA professionals that um, the PGA of America is a little desperate right now. They're trying everything they can to keep this product going. I even heard through the grapevine through another professional that's contacted me that they're even trying to get rid of the PAT altogether. Because they are that desperate to get people to pay to get into the associates program and the PGM program. And people are starting to see that writing on the wall, and they don't want to spend all this kind of money to be part of an organization that's going to put them into a job where they can't even afford a home. And I think uh, someone like Derek, who got into that position, he was able to see the behind the scenes stuff and the writing on the wall, and that's what created this whole paranoia, I believe, to have him only be there for a year and leave. Again, it's the highest paying job you can get in the PGA of America, and you're complaining about health care. How does that make sense? You need good money to have adequate health care. You're not a health professional. You're a golf professional. So you being home, I understand you're face to face time, you're spending time with them, but you're at the age where your parents should be on the way out. And if I was in your parents' position, I would kind of be like, hey, why are you worrying about me? Why don't we worry about my grandkids? Why don't we worry about your grandkids? Why don't we create a family that can have sustainability instead of worrying so much about my health right now? Because I only have so much to live. You have all this life to live. Your kids have all this life to live. So why are we more focused on me than we are that? It's just very strange. And so I think I wanted to create this video as almost a wake up call for people. Like, hey, if you really think that that was the only reason why he left, he stepped down from being CEO of the PGA of America, you need to do some research. You really do. And again, do not trust the news. Do not watch the Golf Digest, golf.com, all those. I'm telling you, they're not going to tell you the truth. More times than not, they want to sell a story. That's how they make their money. That's the only way they make their money is how attractive is this story? How many people will want to read it? So they're gonna morph, or they're gonna kind of tell a story in a way where they'll avoid some truths and then they'll over exaggerate some things because they want to sell the story. So for those PGA professionals that really want to see what the issue is, you need to start doing your research. You need to start looking into things, because my prediction, if this keeps going, the PGA of America is actually going to end up going up in flames, and it'll just poof and not exist. And all these golf teachers with accreditation, we all have spent all this money and time for nothing, because we have these internet warriors that are just doing the same that what we're doing. And yet we've had to pay for this accreditation. We've had to pay for these PGM programs and the schooling. And then we've had to also pay for the dues and the seminars and the tournaments just to stay with the accreditation. And yet I got guys like Joe Mayo and all these. I hope, I don't even know if he's a Class A, or like even Gankis, which I'm not a huge fan of him. I mean, they're killing it, and they don't even have to spend a dime on any of this shit. And yet here we are being persuaded that this accreditation piece is anything worth a damn. And yet we're having to spend, I don't know, around $1,200 between the dues and the local dues and sectional dues and tournament fees and seminar stuff, just to have what, an accreditation piece of an organization that can't even maintain its viewership at the biggest tournament that it holds every year. I'm telling you guys, this is a dying situation, and if we don't get in front of it fast, it's going to explode, completely explode. And a lot of it comes from these PGM students, because they're pissed off. They got $200,000 in debt, and they're getting paid $65,000, which they can't even afford a home on that salary. And yet you got a CEO that's making $4 million a year, and he's quitting after the first year. And that's the best paying job you can get. I'm telling you. There's writing on the wall all over the place. Please stop listening to all these news outlets. Start doing your own research. You will wake up. You will be enlightened. You will see what I am talking about. But yeah, that's it for me. That was I heard that this morning, and I was like, man, I'm gonna tack that with everything I got. So, um, hey, by the way, I've been getting a lot of support lately. I really appreciate it. And again, my goal is to bring the truth. I want this golf industry to get back to its roots. I just want to create a sport that is safe for everybody, and everyone's welcome to play in it. And I think you all are seeing that and supporting that, and that's amazing. So I can't be any more grateful than I am for all that support. So, um, yeah, thanks for listening to Looper Talk. Obviously, shoot me a comment below, whatever you want. Let me know if you have any questions, or if you want to send me a personal message, talk some stuff, preferably on Instagram. That's my main spot. I'll be more than happy to talk to you. So thanks again for listening, Looper Talk. And don't forget, lighten your bags, 200 a strap. Y'all have a good night.